Good morning. Our lesson this morning is found in Proverbs 31. The lesson is called Finding Honor. Uh, Usually, when we read Proverbs 31, we're thinking about Mother's Day. I've also heard Proverbs 31 preached at a funeral service. But when we read Proverbs 31, we can see that it is a tribute to an excellent woman. I read this story and I find it to be very true. Listen to this story. A mother was asked in a county clerk's office what her job was. Well, she replied, "I am a mother." Well, mother was not an acceptable job description. So she wrote this: I'm a research associate in the field of child development and human relations. I have a continuing program of research. What mother doesn't? In the laboratory and in the field. Normally, she said, I would have said indoors and out. I am working for my master's for the whole family and already have 4 credits, all daughters. Of course, the job is one of the most demanding in the humanities. And what mother would not agree with that? And often I work 14 hours a day. In reality, 24 hours is more like it. But the job is more challenging than most run-of-the-mill careers, and the rewards are in satisfaction rather than just money. Very interesting and very true. I have to say that I have been so blessed by a godly mother. She has gone to be with the Lord, but I think of her every day and will one day see her again. She exemplified the qualities described in Proverbs 31. But also, my father was a great example in my life. As a couple, they sought for me to be everything I could be for the Lord Jesus Christ. My dad was a great soul winner and a very honest and genuine Christian. Well, here's my story. I grew up at Brookside Baptist Church in Tulsa, where my family attended regularly. The church was our life, and my parents served and loved the Lord. I started at Brookside in the cradle role and continued there until I graduated high school. I even had the opportunity to lead the music there as interim music minister when I attended Oklahoma Baptist University. Well, we were there every time the church opened its doors. And we were there because my parents loved the Lord and they loved the Lord's church. Do you think that they influenced my life? Of course they did. Now, I love my dad, but like most kids, I really, really loved my mother. She taught me in the ways of the Lord, and I am so thankful for her. I called my mom every day, and I miss her greatly. What made her the way that she was the Lord. But I have to say, I also have an excellent wife. Oh, by the way, Giselle used to call my mom every day too. So not only have I been blessed with an excellent mom and dad, but also a wonderful perfect wife. I learned how to love and respect Giselle by the way that my dad loved and respected my mom. I have been so blessed because not everyone can say such things. Well, I'm sorry for getting so nostalgic, but I have been blessed. Giselle tells me that I have a silver spoon in my mouth because her story is quite different. I want you to know that I have spoiled Giselle. And she tells me that if she has a bad trait, it's my fault. Her mother is also very special and wonderful. And I pay tribute. I honor her also. Giselle is the person she is because of her mom. Giselle's mother is a godly woman. And that is what Proverbs is all about, being a godly woman. And it paints a very lofty view of females. 1 Peter 3:7 tells husbands to show honor to their wives. And Proverbs 31 is a beautiful picture of the honor given to a godly woman. We need to remember that not all women are mothers or wives, and we pay tribute to them also. The proverb is about the qualities of a godly woman. Well, Proverbs 31 is about a woman who is finding fulfillment in her home, in the community, and in a career. This passage does not limit women to one of these roles. Also, this passage is not intended to place guilt on women or to create unrealistic expectations. No one person could fulfill the pattern given for us in Proverbs 31. Some Bible scholars view Proverbs 31 as a passage as a personification of wisdom, the sum of all the virtues espoused in the book of Proverbs. Nevertheless, it serves as a pattern for women to follow if they want to live lives of wisdom. Verse 1 reads like this: "The words of King Lemuel, an oracle that his mother taught him." Well, King Lemuel is not in any recorded list of kings of Judah or Israel. So he was probably a pagan king who put his trust in Yahweh, and through the fear of the Lord learned wisdom. Lemuel understood that his words were an utterance, a prophecy, or a revelation from God. Lemuel had a Jewish mother who taught him the fear of the Lord and God's wisdom. Well, the first section of the lesson is called Commitment to Her Husband. Verses 10 through 12 in chapter 31 says this: "An excellent wife who can find? She is far more precious than jewels. The heart of her husband trusts in her, and he will have no lack of gain. She does him good and not harm all the days of her life." Well, a wife of noble character or an excellent wife is her husband's crown. There is hardly a day that goes by that I am not aware of the value of a good wife. And Giselle and I are just like any other couple. We have our good days and we have our bad days. but not many days go by that I do not realize how privileged I am to have a wife like her. I am incredibly blessed, and it is worth even more as we consider that not everyone has this privilege. Our wives are precious, worth far more than rubies, and are very valuable. She is a precious gift to me. Well, Lemuel's mother spoke to him about the qualities of a virtuous wife. The verses speak of her character and activity, giving Lemuel an idea of the woman to search for and to praise. This passage is traditionally understood as being addressed to women, but is more accurately spoken by a woman to a man so he could know the character and potential character of a good wife before marriage, and value and praise his wife for her excellent character once married. It is primarily a search list for a man. The passage describes the kind of wife the Christian man should pray for and seek after. It's a guide, a goal for a Christian woman, showing the kind of character she can have as she fears and follows the Lord. It reminds the Christian man that he must walk in the fear and wisdom of God so that he will be worthy of and compatible with such an excellent woman. Well, the virtuous woman can be single or can be married. Each will have particular ways this virtue is expressed, either in their singleness or in their family. What this woman has did not simply fall to her. It is her victory through wisdom, her hard-earned, hard-won reward. One might say that this is a very strong woman, a woman who reflects the values and aspirations of who walks in the fear of the Lord and godly wisdom. Her value is greater than what she does, and her worth is greater than precious jewels. Wisdom itself is also described as being more valuable than rubies. This is one reason why some think the description of an excellent wife in Proverbs is more of a poetic description of wisdom as women. Ross says, a scholar, since it is essentially about wisdom, its lessons are both for men and for women to develop. The passage teaches that the fear of the Lord will inspire people to be faithful stewards of the time and talents that God has given, that wisdom is productive and beneficial for others, requiring great industry in life's endeavors, that wisdom is best taught and lived in the home. The excellent wife not only has the trust of her husband, but it is safely given to her. Her character is trustworthy, filled with integrity. She will speak, act, and live with wisdom. And therefore, God's blessing will be on her and on her home. Something a wife is a burden or hindrance to gain and a better life. This is not so in God's plan. And with the presence and influence of a virtuous wife, God will be able to bless her family. She brings gain to her husband on many levels and in great measure. A good wife does her husband good, and Scripture tells us that she continues being a blessing all the days of her life. She only gets better, and her character only grows as the years pass. The second section is called Wise in Her Work, verses 13 through 16. She seeks wool and flax and works with willing hands. She is like the ships of the merchant. She brings her food from afar. She rises while it is yet night and provides food for her household and portions for her maidens. She considers a field and buys it. With the fruit of her hands, she plants a vineyard. Well, King Lemuel's mother described a busy, hard-working, and creative character of an excellent wife. The activity described in these verses doesn't mean that she does all these things in a day or even a week, but it does point to how much work and how many different kinds of work are involved in wisely and properly managing a home. The virtuous woman knows how to seek and find things that are necessary resources for her family and home to prosper. The virtuous wife is not proud or haughty and does not think that working or with her hands is beneath her. She works in simple and practical ways for her family and home. Her labor is a cheerful service. Her will and her heart. It was not uncommon for many families in biblical times to have servants or hired workers. The good wife wisely manages and cares for her maidservants, showing her compassion and care even beyond her immediate family. She is forward-thinking, combining her creativity with hard work. She thoughtfully invests and uses the profits to better her family and their future. Well, the next section is called Sure in Her Reputation, verses 23 through 27. Her husband is known in the gates when he sits among the elders of the land. She makes linen garments and sells them. She delivers sashes to the merchants. Strength and dignity are her clothing, and she laughs at the time to come. She opens her mouth with wisdom, and the teaching of kindness is on her tongue. She looks well to the ways of her household and does not eat the bread of idleness. Well, the virtuous wife sees such a blessing on her family and household that her husband is also esteemed and honored among the elders of the land. All this is the blessing of God that often comes to the wife who walks in virtue, in wisdom, and in the fear of the Lord. Ross said, "The poet did not think it strange or unworthy for a woman to engage in honest trade. In fact, weaving of fine linens was a common trade for women in Palestine from antiquity. The fact that she is willing to distribute and sell linen garments she makes and has shows that her first priority is not in what is in her closet or what she wears. She cares even more about the display of her character than the outward display of her clothing. When it comes to character, She is one of the best dressed, clothed with strength and dignity, so that she can laugh at the time to come. The description of her inner life continues from the previous verse. The excellent wife has what is often described and valued in the book of Proverbs: wise speech and words that show the teaching of kindness on her tongue. Both her deliberate speech and her spontaneous words are marked by wisdom and kindness. She is compassionate and considerate, and considers others more important than herself. As a faithful guardian, the virtuous wife is observant of her family and their ways. The choice to watch so carefully means that she does not choose to eat the bread of idleness. The last section is called Honored Through Fearing God. Her children rise up and call her blessed, her husband also, and he praises her. Many women have done excellently, but you surpass them all. Charm is deceitful and beauty is vain, but a woman who fears the Lord is to be praised. Give her of the fruit of her hands, and let her works praise her in the gates. A woman of such character and wisdom rightfully receives the blessing and praises of her family. Both her children and her husband not only see, but also speak of the blessedness of the woman who brings such a blessing to their household. This is also an exhortation to children and to husbands to bless and praise the mother and wife of godly character. Her children are well bred, which means they're polite, and they love her and give her respect. King Lemuel's mother noted the passing nature of outer beauty and the deceitful nature of manipulative charm. In contrast, a woman who fears the Lord has beauty that does not pass and charm that does not deceive. Proverbs begins with a strong connection between wisdom and the fear of the Lord. Here, the collection ends describing the excellent wife as filled with wisdom, beauty, and charm that marks a godly woman. This godly woman will be rewarded by the God she fears and rewarded by what she has accomplished for her family and herself. And they publicly speak of her godliness and wisdom. For the woman and man of wisdom, this reward is not their primary motivation, but the fitting result of their life lived for the Lord. So how do we apply this to our lives? How do we pay honor? How do we pay respect? How do we pay tribute to the women in our lives? How do we give proper honor to all the women in our lives? Give her the reward she has earned, and let her works bring her praise at the city gates. We show her appreciation for their role and the difference that they have made in our lives. Secondly, we apply what these women have taught us. We try to emulate her. She is respected by her family and community, in her career, and is spiritually sound. Well, there will be times that you will have to practice what you have learned. At those times, in those hard times, remember what she has taught you. Third thing, and lastly, we need to look at our own lives. Do we live a life that fears the Lord? Does your strength come from your character? Do you have wisdom that comes from following the Lord? Well, the only way to exemplify the characteristics in Proverbs 31 is to be a follower of Jesus Christ, to be everything that you can be for Him, to know Him and to live for Him, to love Him, to be devoted to Him. Remember this: charm is deceptive and beauty is fleeting, but a woman who fears the Lord is to be praised. Thanks. See you next week.